to Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. I read this line in a book once that said, disappointment only exists where there's a gap between a person's expectations and reality. And once this men's physique Olympia is all said and done, hopefully there won't be any people experiencing disappointment with what Andre Ferguson brings to the stage. The 2018 Arnold Classic champ is heading into this year's contest looking to add another piece of hardware to that growing collection he's been building all year long. And when you look at his body of work so far, it isn't hard to see why people think he might be the next in line. When this guy is at his best, he can be an absolute monster to deal with. The only question is that monster big enough and bad enough to knock the champ, Jeremy Buendia, off his throne? The one thing I love about the postseason in any sport is that it always has a way of separating the contenders from the people who are just happy to be there. And a little less than 3 weeks from now, we'll all get a chance to find out firsthand which one of those two camps that second-year superstar Sergio Oliva Jr. falls into. The mercurial second-year pro has been training like a man possessed over the last month or so. And in the latest photos I got from my inside sources, he looked like he was more than ready to step up and silence a few critics. The level of talent that we're going to have fighting for top 10 spots in this year's Olympia is probably one of the best we've had in the last 5 years. But once you step on that Olympia stage, the gloves are officially off, so we better be ready to come out swinging. Does anyone out there remember that moment right before you got into your first fist fight ever? And that Ron Burgundy line from Anchorman that started running through your head as you were saying to yourself, oh boy, I immediately regret this decision. Well, I think if I were in this year's 212 Olympia lineup, I would feel that same way every single time I scrolled through my Instagram feed and anything from Nicolas Vullioud showed up. The second-year standout has been completely crushing it over these last 2 months of the season. And I've talked to plenty of people who think that this guy is going to be the ultimate X factor in this year's show. So if you get the Nick Vullioud of 2018 who's in shape, who's crazy full, and insanely dense, then we probably have a nightmare of a competitor for the top 5 to deal with. Back in the 90s, training was always, as they say, old school. But as far as old school goes in the year 2018, they don't come much more old school in the figure division than our old friend Louise Rogers. Yesterday we saw Miss Rogers and her team drop a new update on her fans to show off some of the insane conditioning she's got going on as they get ready to enter the latest phase of her Olympia prep. When you look at the attention to detail, it's hard to say that she isn't doing everything in her power to come in and rock the house this year. But considering the insane level of talent that'll be in this lineup, you still never know if that'll be enough to really push her up into that rarefied top tier. At this point, it feels like everyone in the world has a coach who's out there telling them that they can be a superstar. But in the rare case that your coach actually is a superstar, like bikini standout Darah Diaz is, I'm guessing that those training sessions are probably at an entirely different level. This week we saw Diaz hammering out a monster leg workout alongside Juan Morel, who looks like he's putting the youngster through an accelerated course at Juan Diesel Academy in the run-up to her first Olympia. In the few times we've seen her this season, Diaz has been as good as it gets all the way across the board. But a breakout performance at the Olympia this year would go a long way towards solidifying her place as one of the most exciting young talents that we've seen from this year's class. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.